Welcome to Music Pro Daily, where each day we share our insight to help music producers grow their brand, land more clients, and connect with the market. The Music Pro Daily podcast shares real value from the daily interactions of music professionals Nicholas DiLorenzo and myself, Daniel Grimmett. Happy Thursday, Music Pro Daily family. Hope that you are well. Thanks as always for tuning in. Please take a quick minute to rate, review, and subscribe to the show. Hope everyone's having a good week. Nick took over the episodes for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Want to give a big shout out to him for that, and hope you enjoyed those episodes from Nick. I'm back for the next couple of days here, and a couple things to share. So this episode, I want to chat about a little bit of history and the truth about remote production services. It's been a big part of my life. My entire career in music has been based around that model, and then chat a little bit about whether or not this is the time to get into it, and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so I made a big post on my personal Facebook page called "The History and Truth" about remote production services, and it's on my topic list for YouTube videos, so I'll probably do a video. So a piece of this, I want to just kind of read some from this post, and then also talk a little bit outside of what I shared here. All right. So a bunch of people were sending me stuff, articles and posts about remote production. Obviously, it's a hot topic right now because everyone's stuck inside and realizing like, oh shit, I probably should have had something set up online. And yes, that's the truth. Now is a good time for that. It's been a good time for that. I kind of make a joke in this post that remote production has been the future for the past 10 years. And this is a reactive time to get into it. But I don't think that should discourage you from doing that. I don't think this is not a thing that I'm going to take as a I told you so moment, because whatever, doesn't matter. But it is a reactive time. It's going to be like, it's always tough when it's like oh shit, I have to do this to survive. But sometimes we need that to happen. Now, the people that have been doing this model, of course, they're going to have an advantage, but it is a great time to get in and start doing it. And I think, as I mentioned in other episodes, the positives will be that people start realizing that, like, oh, this is a thing. In my opinion, it's really one of the best ways to make a living. I mean, obviously, I'm biased because it's been my story, but I tell you, the guys who are outside of people that have big names and have been in this for a long time, the ones, if I just look at the average of, some of the kids I know who are younger, got into the game within the past couple years, 5 years, 8 years, the ones that really crush and making a bunch of money are ones that work remote, period. So it is a great model. Of course, now you're forced to get into it, so it's more of a reaction than a proactive choice, but here we are. But I want to make it clear that, like, if you're like in a tough position right now, what scares me is I think a lot is going to come out trying to take advantage of the situation and be like, oh, remote product, this is the easy answer to save your business. And listen, there's never an answer that's going to be an immediate savior. Okay, if you're in a tough position right now, I just don't want you to think that, like, oh, well, I'll just go remote and it'll be like this. It'll be my immediate savior. It'll change everything immediately. Well, that's not true. Like any model, it's hard to build. Okay, so I just don't want you guys getting tricked into like, some change your life course talking about remote. And I don't know if those are out there, but if any pop up, please do not be confused. It is a hard model as well. It makes a lot of sense. It's my favorite model, but it doesn't mean that it's easy, and it's not going to be an immediate savior, okay? hopefully the lesson that a lot of people learn from this experience is to be prepared for things like this. Okay, because you got to know, like I said, I'm not trying to make this a I told you so moment, but there's plenty of producers that, they started working on this shit 3 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, and building up something big and taking it really seriously and not being afraid of like, oh gosh, I have to take a risk and, invest in something to grow. And, well, yeah, because all this could be taken away, right? So it's important. I think the lesson, again, I don't mean that to be an I told you so thing, but the lesson is you got to be prepared. So I think it's great to get into remote production now, but not because of the virus. I think it's always great. Literally, it's what I've been preaching for a long time. It's always been the way to do it. So I think you should do it. It's just not going to necessarily be an immediate savior for you, okay? Just want to make that clear so that you don't get duped into buying something stupid that's promising you the world. So quick little history of remote production. For me, back in 2012, I realized that direct-to-client remote production was going to be the thing. It just made a lot of sense because the independent guys that I was working under, the couple of little projects that I was doing for songwriters when I was living in LA, I realized that, okay, we don't need to be in the same room to do this. So if people need this here, they probably need it in other places in the world. And my corporate experience before getting into building the production company was in real estate and helping realtors build websites and marketing strategies and stuff like that. And it's like, well, yeah, we did that all the time. Our clients weren't local. We could work with a realtor anywhere. So I knew there was ways to get clients that weren't in the same city as you using the internet. Put two and two together. There you go. I by no means invented remote production. Don't take credit for that. I like to think that I was a part of pioneering some of the models and of course helping producers get into that world, but I by no means invented it. Okay, it's actually been around for a while, and the beat leasing guys, which you know is not my favorite model, and it's not technically direct to client work. It's more of a product business, but they've been doing this forever. They're sort of the OGs of this, okay? Since the early 2000s, maybe even some of them popped up in the late 90s. I'm not 100% sure of the origin, but I do know they've been around for a long time. I remember seeing beat stuff like when I was in high school, and I'm old, so that was 2002. Online mixing and mastering has also been around for 20 years. There are companies like Studio Pros, which is more of kind of an online recording studio, where it's like, you can get an instrument recorded, or, we'll put the band together, and you can do that. Again, that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm talking about producers who are multi-instrumentalists, kind of more composers, those kind of guys. But there are some still companies around that are more of a quote-unquote online recording studio. And Studio Pros, as far as I know, kind of pioneered that. They were at least the biggest for a while, and they started back in the early 2000s. The second wave came in the 2010s. You had companies like mine, which was called the Sarning Team. It's now defunct since I'm consulting, so I'm not going to compete against my clients. But, it was crushing it for, a long time, 2012/13 up through 2017-18. And you also had, platform, and there were a lot of other ones like us too that came up. Both producers and both producers and the online recording studio model. And then you had platforms come up like, Sound Better and Air Gigs. I believe both of those started around 2011, I think. I feel like I knew about Air Gigs first. So they could have came out earlier. I feel like I remember Air Gigs like 2013, and I don't think I found out about Sound Better until 2014. But I believe they both started around 2011. And then, of course, you had like early adopters, producers that also figured this out and was like, oh, we can use sites like Craigslist or like freelancing sites or things like that to get started online. It's not necessarily my recommendation for the current times. It's always going to be a better idea to build your own platform, build your own thing that attracts clients instead of relying on others. But it's a thing, and it was definitely a way to get started back then. I would guess a lot of people do it now. I'm not sure. I haven't looked into those methods in a long time, in probably 6 or 7 years. But like I said, anything that's going to market remote as the easy way, easy fix is, not, it's just not true. Okay. Anything that says this is the easy plug and play, solve all your problems, change your life fix, usually not real. It's just marketing. Okay. So the, second kind of thing going into, let's talk about like who this is the best fit for. Okay. In my Facebook post, I mentioned, that you've got to have the right skills for this or learn them. Okay. Online or not, the same principles apply. If you do what everyone else does and your services are a commodity, then it's going to be difficult. Online's not going to change that. Okay. For most music pros, there are a ton of people that do what you do. And a lot of them are good. And you just have to realize that. And I've mentioned that a lot on the podcast. And that's why thinking outside the box is important. And that's why, really figuring out how to get your clients traction and making a good, not only experience, I think a good experience is a given, but making logical sense to hire you. Okay. And we've had episodes on that. Like I mentioned, I think developing, business acumen and optics for business, I think this will be a good lesson. I think the people now that are like, oh shit, basically in business, you want to decide the changes and be prepared. When something like this happens, I know I'm jumping back to the first topic, but when you're forced to change like this, it's tougher. So another lesson I hope that people learn out of this is just from moving forward is to constantly be looking and really thinking about things and being like, well, what can I pivot to? Like, what could I do differently? And doing it ahead of when everyone is like, oh shit, we have to do this now. Okay, that's another lesson I think is going to come out of this experience. The reality here is that artists are still, they still need someone to take them from point A to point B, and that is valuable. Okay, so the ones who are like afraid of this whole, virus is going to cause a crash and economic, recession, all that. So like, yeah, sure, probably will. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert, but it's probably not going to be great. To what extent and what that looks like, I have no clue. Don't take expert advice on that from me. But, it's just obvious and that it's not going to be, of course, there's going to be a hit because of this. And the ones who are going to continue to lose, the ones that continue to just like reserve back and retreat and retreat and retreat. And the ones that are going to continue to crush it are people that realize this and say, okay, cool. In a recession, sure, the problems that scraping, if you can fix the scraped knee, yeah, that's just not going to be that valuable in a recession. But if you can do heart surgery, that's going to remain valuable. That's why I'm not very worried about my job, like solving a problem, taking someone whose, goal and dream and is to be a producer and have a successful client business or fix the client business they have because it's their living, it's their livelihood. That's a big problem to solve. And I get paid well to solve that problem. And there will still be people that want to solve that problem, even in a recession. Will it look a little different? Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But it's the stuff where people, they can fix a scraped knee, but they can't do a surgery. So this is a great time to really look and say, okay, how can I become more valuable? There's always going to be artists that still need to go from point A to point B. Okay. And not every person is going to be destroyed in whatever this little recession looks like. Okay, it's just the demographics are going to shift. The demographics are going to shift. Is it going to be tough for people that are waiters? Yeah. It's obviously going to be tough for people that are waiters, at least for a little while. Not every musician is a waiter, okay? So if you're thinking that small and you're just like, oh, the world is over, there's no point in growing, you're wrong. The people that are really going to crush it and grow, this is going to be the time when they do it. And as I mentioned in one of the other episodes, I mean, I pretty much started my production business in the recession, the 2008 one. It was more towards the end of it, but still, things still weren't great at that time. So, especially where I was living. But the world is a huge place. There's a lot of people. And some people just don't see that. They think it's just there's a tiny little piece for everyone and it's all taken. That's just not true. All right? So working with artists, knowing their business better than they do is super. You got to be valuable to them. And you have to know their business better than they do. Okay? I've mentioned that in other episodes. If a producer is able to go above and beyond, sorry, half of this I'm reading and then half of it I am just going off the top of my head. If a producer is able to go above and beyond to do that, then they will always have clients. And that's true. We still have producers that are signing on to work with me now because they see this and they're like, yeah, but I can crush it. I want to be one of the good ones getting the clients. Because I'm going to learn how to do that, go above and beyond for them. And, you know, will people spend less? Sure. But that doesn't mean they're going to stop spending and stop investing into their art. They're just going to need to be smarter about it. So do you think they're just going to go with the random ass $2 producer that didn't doing shit? Or they're going to go with the person that can actually help them go above and, you know, will go above and beyond and help them do something? That seems like a smarter place to put their money since they're going to be more sensitive to that. There's producers and mixers, whoever that know that, okay? Be one of those. There is no reason for this to take you out. No reason. It's just the demographics are going to change a little bit. A lot of these things I'm saying are credited to my mentor as well. These are ideas that he's passed along to me. One thing that I want to mention with this isn't just for remote, but I have other episodes on this, but it's in the thing I wrote. You can build a track record. You don't have to just wait until you get a shot to work with someone, an artist that already has one. Okay? High value clients are created. You guys that listen to the podcast know that. So I've talked about it before. So if you just solve one piece of the puzzle, then the online thing is going to be a little harder. Not impossible, but it is going to be a little harder. All right? It's going to be harder if you just mix or just master or just write songs or only make beats. And again, not discouraging you. Obviously, Nick crushes it with that. And he's had episodes on the mixing stuff and connecting with clients online. I'm sure he'll do more. I'm just sharing it with you my experience, and that just is the truth. It's going to be harder. You know, there's a couple reasons for that. I'll tell you in a second. But if you're just a piece, that's fine. But you're really going to have to go for it. You know, 100%. You're gonna have to go all in to make it work. You know, and / or adapt. Maybe you learn some new skills. Maybe you try different things, or maybe you link up with people who are getting a lot of work and provide value to them. Okay, if you're just doing one of the pieces, it's tough. The mixing and mastering online thing, that's been around forever. There's just a lot of people that do it. So you're coming in on the tail end. So that's not to discourage you, but it just means you're really going to have to go for it, do something special, or have some kind of different angle. So who generally crushes it at the remote model? Producers. Now, you don't have to check every box on this list, by the way, but this is just my general checklist. You want to check more than not. Producers who can also write, plays multiple instruments or programming, so you can put together a track yourself, can arrange the song, generally start to finish. Now, mixing and mastering is optional. Some guys do it themselves, some farm it out. That's where your opportunity comes in for you mixing and mastering guys, linking up with people that have work. able to record reference vocals really helps. You don't have to be a pro singer, but being able to record a reference vocal to show a client an idea, that really helps. You have a process to make sure the client gets good vocal takes remotely, whether that's something you do to prepare for their session or you're controlling their session virtually, which you can do with tools like SessionWire. A couple of ways to do it. It's going to depend on the client, but you have a process for that. You also have a process for making it feel collaborative, or not making it feel collaborative, actually making it collaborative, despite not being in the same room. You'll learn what it takes, or already has experience in this, to help the artist get traction and results with the songs you're making them, helping them grow as a musician, as a person. Next one is doesn't have any big hangups about marketing or business. People that have hangups about that stuff, you're just making it 400 times harder on yourself. And then the last one is great communication. So I have a side note here in this post, kind of going back to the online recording studio thing. You can hire everything out, but you just got to take into consideration, margin, passing that off to the client. The economics have to work. It is a bit easier for those multi-talented folks who can kind of do it all. But you can do that. All right. This is also going to come down to the genres and style of music that you do. Obviously, the more like electronic something leans, like not electronic as an EDM music, but the process, the more programming can get a great result, the easier it's going to be to do remote. Trying to do remote when your whole business model is based around a traditional studio / recording bands is very difficult for obvious reasons. Okay. And I'm not telling you to give up on that if that's what you do and want to do, but we're talking about remote, and for obvious reasons that makes it tougher if that's what you do. It's one of the things that frustrates me about some of the universities and school that teach audio production and stuff, because it's not really telling people that. So if you live in a tough area for recording and that's all you do, the no marketing tactic or business skill is going to save you. You can take a course, you can listen to podcasts, you can study how to run Facebook ads. It's not going to matter. Okay. So you either need to move or adapt your skill sets. If you live in a place where there's no ideal clients for you to work with, it's just, supply and demand, okay? No one can just drop off a bunch of potential clients in your town. It doesn't make economic sense for most artists to travel, although some still will. But for most people, I wouldn't make your whole business rely on that, to be honest. I would adapt, or if that's the skills you do and that's all you want to do, move to where there's clients. Okay, I talk to a lot of people that are just in these situations and like, I don't know why my business works. It doesn't work. And it's like, what are you talking about? You record, whatever, indie bands, and you live in a town of 500 people with no indie bands. Why do you think it doesn't work? So, and then they buy courses and spend all this time on marketing, and they're telling me marketing strategies and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but none of it matters because, so they have to adapt or move. What else here? Yeah, that's pretty much it. So you can read the whole post on my personal Facebook page. That's kind of the history and truth about remote production services, and also talked a little bit about there of, just to kind of wrap it up, like should you get into it? Well, yeah. The answer has always been yes. It's just not going to be an immediate savior for you. But if this is what it takes to get you to kind of adapt and get smart about that and want to pursue that, heck yeah, do it. It's a great time, even despite what's going on. It's a great time. Like I mentioned, we still have people, brave soldiers that are coming in and investing in consulting with me to grow their business, because they know when everyone else is scared and retreating, boom, that's when they can have an advantage and really build something great. So it's absolutely a good time. Hope that helps. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow. A monumental thank you to those listening and those of you who share, subscribe, and review this podcast. Music Pro Daily is all orchestrated in-house by Nicholas DiLorenzo and myself, Daniel Grimmett. The music industry is our shared passion. If you ever want to see more of us in the office or at the studio, head over to musicprodaily.com, where you can find links to our socials and stalk more of us doing what we do best. Thanks again for listening. See you tomorrow.